Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It seems like it's been a long time. This is the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting of the Moscow City Council. It is Monday, November 28th, and we all trudged through snow drifts and blowing snow to get here. To my right is Councilor Haley Lewis. To my left, or your right, is Councilor Maureen Laughlin. Our far left is City Supervisor Bill Belknap. Our first item today, I'm Gina Terusio. Duh. It's the snow. Our regular agenda, the first item is the approval of the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting minutes from October 10th of 2022.
Look good to me.
Yep, no concerns.
Okay, those are approved, sir. Second item, and the reason that Sarah Banks is sitting here at the table with us is the disbursement report for October of 2022.
I know.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Yep, so looking at the accounts payable report for month ending October 31st, 2022, total expenditures came in at $4,238,330. Our largest expenditure was payroll, which was $1,158,083. We had another large month with expenditures, so bear with me. I have multiple to get through. Our first one was the Inland North Waste final cell closure and the amount of $126,000. We had a couple of payments for the South US 95 water sewer extension. That it was $372,916 and $306,740.
And we knew as we're coming, it was just like a supply chain thing of when it would eventually come in, right?
Correct. Okay. And for the 6th Street Bridge over Paradise Creek, we had some water and street improvements for $155,827.53. We had well house number 6 replacement for $144,675.50. We paid half of our premiums for our annual insurance to iCrimp, and that was $150,780.50. And we purchased HP Synergy servers in the amount of $165,016.30. And we paid our quarterly Whitcom payment for our user fees for October through December in the amount of $174,585.
Do you have any questions?
I just have a question on the Whitcom one.
Mhm.
I know that it seems to me that some of our officers are actually helping answer some of those calls. Are they still doing that?
That might be a bill.
I know we had one officer working part-time, assisting Whitcom. I do not know if that's currently ongoing.
I was just
thinking
curious
that-
on whether or not it brings down our payments to them if we are providing some of the work.
No, they're just being treated as an outside employee to Whitcom. And so we just approve outside employment agreements that allows an employee to work somewhere elsewhere than the city of Moscow, and they're just treated as an employee there. So it does not impact our payment.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on Whitcom, and then I've got a different finance-related question, but the Whitcom question is probably for Bill. Given Chief Fry's current focus, I think they meet Wednesday. Are they going to meet Wednesday of this week? Are we able to make sure you or someone else from the city is able to?
Yeah, I'll
cover
check with
for him?
James to see if he was planning to attend. If not, I can.
I think, and maybe
attend in his place.
Captain Lanier's gone before. I can't remember. I saw our Alta Science payment is still going through, and I saw Tyler just took a phone call. That's for our wastewater sampling, right? For COVID. Am I remembering right?
Not Alta.
Okay, I can't remember which lab does the wastewater sampling for COVID.
So we send that out. We've got. I'm
blanking
trying
too.
to recall the company name, but it's not Alta.
Okay, and because my follow-up question was going to be how much longer we want to keep sampling, if we're still seeing value in tracking that data, if our public health district is asking us to.
We're planning to carry it through the end of the year was our anticipation.
And it's a
then
CARES
probably
dollar.
Stop at the end of December.
Okay, because it's and we've been paying for it from CARES and ARPA, right?
We've actually just been paying that directly.
Okay.
Not using CARES Act. It's a fairly minimal cost, so
Okay.
it isn't that significant.
Maybe that's where I should have started then. Okay, perfect.
But we just anticipated that we didn't see much value carrying it beyond the end of the year.
Okay, sounds great. That was the only finance question I had.
Okay, are we all good with approving it then?
Yes.
And the digital signature
Yes.
dealio? Okay, awesome.
All right.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Our next item is the amendment to memorandum of agreement between BBC LLC and the City of Moscow. Cody Riddle.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
It's good to see you all.
Same here.
I think we can be fairly brief with this item. If you'll recall, in May of 2021, council entered into a memorandum of agreement with BBC LLC. Say that a few times really fast. That agreement included a number of commitment from the developer for a number of improvements with the development and along Palouse River Drive, as well as the city's agreement for financial contributions to some of the improvements along Conestoga. The big thing that's before you today, or the only thing that's before you today, is that agreement is set. The improvements were required to be completed by December 31st. As you saw in the written request, like a lot of about all of the construction projects we have and the development community has, there have been challenges with, labor, procuring supplies, things like that. So the developer has asked for a 6-month extension to that agreement. Nothing else in the agreement is changing. And so we are recommending that you recommend to council approval of that extension, which would take it to July 1st, 2023. Thank you.
Okay.
I have no, it makes sense to me.
Is there any reason to take it to regular? Do we have to
No,
take it to
no,
regular?
this could be on consent.
Okay, I'm good with consent at this point.
I am too. I just have a follow-up question.
Oh,
and
ask it.
and it may be best for Mr. Beebe himself. So the 6-month extension, putting in the bridge, is that going to affect anything for your ability to finish work on the lots for the first batch of?
Please.
Yeah, for the first batch of development? Is it like the first domino that has to fall for the rest of the work you need to do on those lots to be ready? Or are other things still able to happen even though the bridge needs to get bumped out?
Well, the bridge, we're anticipating to set those pieces actually, I think this Thursday.
Okay, cool.
But it's just the rest of the work. And a lot of it has to do with the paving schedule at this point. Because
Okay.
batch plants are closed at this point. And
Yeah, shortage of asphalt. Who knew?
yeah, that's kind of the problem.
Okay, groovy. Yeah, I don't
That
have
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have concerns. Thank you for being forthcoming with
Absolutely.
making sure we're all Johnny on the spot on this.
That was Rich Beebe, the owner of BBC LLC. Do you have any questions or any concerns?
None.
Is consent okay for you two?
Consent's fine with
All
me.
right, let's do consent, please, Bill. Thank you, Cody. Okay, our next item is the Finley Buttes fuel relief. Tim Davis, long time, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. The City of Moscow received a request from Finley Buttes Limited Partnership for fuel relief due to unanticipated and significant increases in diesel fuel costs over this past year. As you are aware, the City of Moscow entered into an agreement with Finley Buttes Limited Partnership in 2019 for transportation and disposal of our municipal solid waste. The waste is trucked from our solid waste processing facility out on Highway 8 to Finley Buttes landfill, which is located in Boardman, Oregon. Each round trip from Moscow to Finley Buttes landfill is approximately 416 miles. And in fiscal year 2022, they hauled 788 loads, and each load averaged just shy of 30 tons per load. So fuel is a significant piece of Finley Buttes' cost to provide these services. Following review of the fuel relief request and verification of fuel usage, staff determined that the request to be reasonable and appropriate. In the past, the city has granted fuel relief to the contractor's predecessor when similar fuel cost volatility occurred. Staff has developed a fuel cost model which provides a fair and predictable method of accounting for fuel cost volatility that provides for both reimbursement for excessive fuel expenses to Finley Buttes, as well as a credit back to the City of Moscow when there is a reduction in fuel prices. In your packet, you will also find a fuel calculation model that I would like to go through with you quickly and address any questions that you may have. One might ask, well, where do we, or how do we determine a starting point and determine that base fuel index? And what we did was we took the 24-month fuel cost average when the 24 months prior to the execution of that agreement, which was in 2019. We came up with a cost, you'll see in that, I guess it's the fifth column over, of $3.27 was that average base fuel index. Now, Finley Buttes, in their contract, they receive 80% of the CPI each year as a cost escalation for any fluctuation in the CPI in their contract.
Okay.
So we wanted to apply some of that CPI, as fuel is a cost component within the CPI. So we wanted to add that or adjust that base fuel index by half of the CPI. And we came up with that number after running many different models. We didn't want to overinflate that or underinflate that base fuel index. So that will fluctuate, as you can see in the chart, a few cents each year. And then the second part of the calculation is taking the current fuel index, which is a monthly average, and you can see down below in the bottom columns, we went back
That's
to,
what the CFI is.
yes, current fuel index. That's just the current monthly average price of
Holy
those
Lord.
months listed.
Wow.
So you can see it jumped dramatically in January, and it got as high as over $6 there in June. So the way this works is if that monthly average fluctuates 15% above that base fuel index, we would pay Finley Buttes the difference. If it falls 15% below that base fuel index, they would credit us back that difference.
Okay,
So
makes sense.
it leaves us a 30% window where if that average monthly cost stays within that window, we do nothing. It's a predictable way to take care of that fuel cost, and it kind of takes the fuel out of it, if you will.
Okay.
Questions?
I'm having a little computer problems right now, so let me just put it down here. Where do we get the price for the base fuel, the average price? Because I was just noticing down in Lewiston, it's like gas is so much less expensive than it is up here. So where do you get that average? Is it a state average, or where does it come from?
I don't have the name of that
You know, they tell me.
So-
there's some-
index
there's
that
a-
we use. It's a national index used, and it's by region. We use the I believe it's the Pacific
So yeah, it's the
Northwest.
U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA organization, the monthly West Coast index that excludes California
Okay, there we go.
That's
Yeah.
good.
for number 2 diesel retail prices.
Okay.
So that's an index published weekly and monthly as a average for the West Coast region.
So do we, since they are a third party that contract with the city, they still pay sales tax on their gas, right? But our city fleet doesn't, is that
Correct.
right? And so this consumer price thing is also going to factor in our Idaho gas tax into whatever the regional price or whatever the regional numbers are.
I'm assuming it's retail price in the region, including sales tax, so it's going to vary by state. So it probably gets averaged out across the West Coast region.
And is Finley Buttes happy with this arrangement and approach to make sure they're
Yes, we ran the proposal by their controller, and he seemed to think that it made a lot of sense. Obviously, we're not
Sense.
obligated to do this, but since it is such a large cost of their providing the service, we also don't want our contractor to go out of business because of the
Right.
price of fuel. So,
Right.
no kidding?
yeah, I thought it was going to be a lengthy phone call, and it ended up being about a 5-minute phone call, and they said, yeah, that looks great. So
That's because you did such a good job of putting
Yeah.
it
Oh.
together. That's it.
thank you. I didn't do it alone.
Well, I know, but
And pardon me for not knowing this right off the tell me how long this is in place now.
This would be amendment to the contract, and our disposal contract has options that run through 2035. I believe our first option or our first term ran 7 years. And then at that point, the city has the option to renew for an additional 5 and another 5, I believe.
So we are in year 1 of the first 7, right? No.
No, it began in fiscal year 2020, which would have been October 1 of 2019.
Okay, so
3 or
Great.
4.
3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're also
so-
recommending that by applying this, that we do it retroactive back to January, since that's when the first major increase was
Shake up.
really.
So is it our expectation that we would go that first 7 years and then reevaluate? Or is that our
It'll be-
expectation that we would do this until 35
So
years goes
this
on?
is actually an amendment to that contract. So whatever we do for renewal of that contract, this would carry forward with that.
Unless we negotiate it again.
Correct.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
we don't want to do, right?
No, we don't want to negotiate.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Love it.
Okay.
It's actually a very good contract. And this just, in past years, when we've had fuel increases like this, we've always had to come and do this exercise with council. And, staff just thought it was maybe time to just include the fuel index within the contract. And then it's just cut and dry from here forward. We know what's coming and we can,
Plan.
kind of plan.
I don't worry about your contracts. That's not my point. I'm just trying to make it
No,
clear
no,
for those
Sure.
70 or 80 million people that are watching this
Yeah.
meeting right
Avid
now.
listeners. I love
Yeah,
it.
the avid listeners. So,
I am happy to recommend
Well,
approval.
hold on, before we do that, I think we have somebody else to talk
some
to.
input from the peanut
fair enough.
gallery here.
Just
Yeah.
one thing I do want to point out
Yes.
about this that I think is important is that this not only provides for the city to compensate when fuel prices go up, but also when fuel prices come down, then the city benefits. So it's
Indeed.
not just a one-way deal on this. This is something that as we negotiated this into that contract, we thought it was important that if we were going to make concessions when they were high, that the vendor makes concessions
Fair.
when fuel's low.
Yeah.
Okay.
My only concern is making sure that it's not onerous on our private contractor to have to keep track of. And so it sounds like we've got a steady, predictable mechanism by which to do the calculations. I see the calculations that I recognize as math.
And for me, it
I'll
makes
take it.
perfect sense in terms of why the conversation took 5 minutes. I mean,
Yep.
you put together a really good package and
Indeed.
there's no argument there.
Okay, would you like this on regular or consent?
Consent.
I'm fine with consent as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thanks for the extra explanation on.
Sure.
Okay, our next item, and Tyler too, thank you, wherever you went. Alman Asbury Alley Paving Project Bid. Could we add any more words again to these titles?
More.
Alman Asbury Alley Paving Project Bid Award. Bob Bouvel.
Thank you very much.
One more time, faster.
She sold seashells by the seashore.
We probably even could have added some a sewer element to that too, because that's a
Yeah.
significant portion
For
of
the
it.
next time,
That's
here we go.
The sewer was actually added on after the fact when we decided we were going to pave the alley. We looked at the infrastructure underneath and decided we should replace that too. So.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you today about
Okay.
the Alman Asbury Alley paving project.
Awesome.
So on November 15th, the city of Moscow opened bids on this project. We received 3 bids. The bids ranged from $656,011 to $692,706.75. The low bid was from Motley for that $656,000. The staff is pretty comfortable with this price. As you can see from the bid tabulation that was included in the packet, all the bids are pretty close. They're within $40,000 of each other. So we feel confident that this is a competitive price and this is just what it's going to cost us to do this project. The project is going to be pretty important. It has been on the streets wish list for quite a while. That alley receives a lot of traffic from residences that access that alley or use that alley for access. So our streets crews have to grade that twice a year to try to keep it in good shape.
Yeah.
And so we feel as though we've got a competitive price. This is what it's going to cost to do the project, and we're recommending that we move forward with the project.
Glad you're getting your wish list, and I think I approve it. And consent, if we can do consent.
Do you have any questions while we're here? Why do I ask
think
that
so.
question? Of course. Oh, really?
Well,
Really?
I know. I'm
Don't-
frantically
don't-
scrolling.
don't
I know.
push it.
Yeah, take it, run, take it, and run with
What are
it.
you
Good,
doing?
she said no.
No, I just have to get my mental map dialed on which section of town this is.
So it's going to go from 6th up past 3rd Street. So it'll start roughly where Gambino's is, the alley that runs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Let's, yes, yes. And I have a couple of friends who rented on that street and, yes, let's, yeah. Great.
Okay, let's consent.
Full speed
this
ahead.
one.
Consent sounds great.
Okay.
All right, Bob,
Ooh.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're blowing through this agenda.
Through pretty quick.
Okay, our final item is the updated personnel policies adoption. Mr. Belknap.
So
Your
as,
turn.
as the committee is aware, you've seen parts and pieces of the updates to the city's personnel policies over the course of the last year, but we've not had a consolidated package before the council for the council to adopt by resolution. So that's what's here today. Most of the changes that have been made is updating to reflect current law employment practices. We also reviewed it to make sure that we had gender neutrality in all the pronouns utilized throughout the document. Most all of the substantial changes to either benefits or programs the council's already seen. Probably the most significant of those was the addition of 4 weeks of paid parental leave. So 160 hours of paid parental leave that was incorporated in the document. So that's probably the most significant change. We've also included Juneteenth as an official holiday in this as well. But other than that, it's really just getting it all together into a single package for the council's review. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you.
Appreciate the work that all went into that.
A logistical question or comment, I guess. Because I hadn't seen this prior to, hadn't seen like looked at the full living document prior to this year, I would have loved to see it similar to a resolution where I've got some track changes. And maybe it's just the view that I'm looking at within here and I could have missed it in my email.
No,
And-
it's a wholesale rewrite, so it's
Okay, so
more
there's
extensive
enough-
than that would have really been
Yeah, I guess with the-
easy to read and attract changes view.
Fair enough. And if we're doing, neutral gender pronouns and stuff, that makes sense. I had, I forget that the 4 weeks of paid leave, parental leave was new as of calendar year 2022. I have talked to the mayor and I talked to Bill about this too. I would love to see it go to 6 as far as understanding what we can offer. And part of me just thinks it's the right thing to do. And to me, I am not sure what we've got on the agenda for December. I'm tempted to see if we could put this on the regular agenda, but I would like to explore increasing the parental leave for both parents to 6 weeks of paid leave. So that was my other comment. And
fine to be
it
able to
sounded
have
like this
this-
was an amendment was the way to go to the personnel document.
So I mean, I think it's not on the consent agenda. We take that issue up and bring it up when we have the full council there and we can address it and you can address the justifications for why it's 4 versus 6 and what the cost implications are of that or whatever.
Sure. So happy to have this on regular. We can talk
So
about that.
yeah, my only request would be
Council?
regular and we can talk about that. And,
Yeah.
and also I think for what it's worth, I think it's worth heralding the work that your team did to make sure that the compensation reviews we've been doing at the city. How many open positions do you have at the city right now?
Oh, in total, we
I think
probably
for seasonal,
have
it's kinda hard.
6 or 7 currently open. I mean, we always have police officer positions
Right.
open available. We've been
Yeah.
successful in getting a lot of our public works operators positions filled. So we're now full on the
Oh, excellent.
reclamation side.
And
I think we have
wastewater
2
too?
vacancies on the water side.
Okay.
Currently, so we had 5 vacancies not too long ago. So we
Okay.
filled 3 of those, have 2 remaining.
Nice.
We have the HR manager, we have a facilities maintenance staff member. So we do have a few others still out there, a few parks maintenance positions that are currently vacant. So we have probably, less than 10 currently advertised.
I'm just thinking in terms of the work you put in, I think should be acknowledged to make sure that we are providing fair compensation package. And so that's kind of, we've heard it in bits and pieces and by email about the work that the team's done to make sure that our city folks are being looked after. My 2 cents, if we put it on a regular agenda, it's okay to toot your own horn on the work you did there, but
Happy to do that.
my input.
Okay, regular, toot your horn.
Yes.
is
Yeah.
what that-
Yeah.
With a recommendation for approval
Yeah.
with some.
Oh, I was going to say,
maybe
where's Taylor? We'll have Taylor.
discussion about the
Lori, put
parental
it in there.
leave.
Toot your horn recommendation.
Do we, are we going to recommend approval or do we just want to forward it to the regular agenda?
I think that because there's a split on this, between us, that we should actually just
Just
put it
Forward it.
forward it.
Sounds good.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, no more comments or questions? We're good?
Not that I
Any
can.
more items, Mr. Belknap?
Nothing else for you this afternoon.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, good. Thank you. We're adjourned.